summer learning gap is real. Studies are showing that students who don't engage in some type of learning activity over the summer months lose a large portion of what they've gained those 9 months while school's going on. So what can you as a parent do to lessen that burn, to lessen that sting, and ensure that your child doesn't get too far behind this summer? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm the one that shields. This is Too Cute Classrooms, and today we're going to be talking about some things we can do this summer to ensure our babies don't get too far behind. So let's get right into this video. First things you want to do this summer is ensure that your child has a set routine and a set time for learning. Because it is summer, we do want our children to enjoy their summer break. We don't want to monopolize all their time. We want to have a set time in which they are doing lessons in which they're learning. And so let's say it's from 8 to 10 every day. So from 8 to 10, you would have designated for your child to do their learning activities. So, and if you do the rest of these, you can sort of sprinkle them throughout the day. But that way your child is not falling completely out of the learning loop and completely out of the learning routine. Reading is a key component of shortening the learning gap. You know, it's summertime and there are so many students that complain about not wanting to read, but I always tell them you don't like to read because you have a problem with reading comprehension, because you haven't met the right book yet. But there's a right book out there for you. So as a parent, one of the first things you can do is start taking your child to the local library. Or if you want to, there are amazing sites like Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million. All these places sell books that your child can get to read. There are tons and tons of books. So begin with a trip to one of those bookstores or to the local library. Allow your child to pick up a book that he or she might enjoy. And I'm not saying force them to read something. Don't do it. Don't force them to read books that they don't like. Allow them to enjoy the reading experience. I know for me as a child, one of my favorite things to do was go to the library in the summertime. My mom would take me, and I love walking down those aisles, just browsing, just looking at the many books. And even today, I really enjoyed it. I like going to the library. I like the quiet atmosphere. I like browsing through the books. So please allow your child to experience that. Don't discourage him or her from reading those graphic novels. Don't discourage them from reading magazines. You know, even if they're reading a blog online or the sports column, whatever it is, encourage them to read. Talk about reading. Make reading sound exciting, because it is. Of course, I'm a writer and I'm an English teacher, so reading's always exciting to me. But talk about it. I have learned through the years while I was teaching my class, if I want to get my students excited about reading something, one of the main things I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a book and I'm going to be reading in front of them. So you can add in dear time as educators, but even as parents, have a night when you read. Have a reading night, a book night. And what I would do while I was reading, I would go, ooh, oh my gosh. And some of it was for real, because I was really getting excited. So it always catches the kids' attention and they're wanting to know, what you reading? What you doing up there? And so when you tell them, just give them little snippets of what you're reading. That's going to get them excited about reading the same thing. So as an adult, you may want to pick up a young adult fiction or something that's along their lines of level. You don't have to get this big book. Now, if you're going to read something exciting, you might want to do that in private. But if you can get a book to get them excited about reading, let them see you reading, whether it's on your tablet, whether it's on your computer. Let them see you read. Read. Encourage the reading. So if we could get the reading part down pat, that can help tremendously with shortening that learning gap. Something else that you want to do, take them to a museum. Take that trip to the museum. Go let them look at the pictures. Get them to talk about those pictures. Get them to answer some questions about, like, which picture do you like the best? Why do you like it? How does it appeal to you? You know, walk them through their five senses. Like, what do you think this would sound like if you were there? Or what do you think this would smell like if you were there? And while you're doing all that, you're activating their critical thinking skills. They're thinking about it. You can tell them, or you might want to show them a picture that you hate and tell them why, get them to explain why they like that picture. Get them to go into some details. The same way about their book. So going back to the reading real quick. So when you're asking them about that book, you ask them the question like, who's the main character? Who's the villain? Do you like the main character? Do you like the villain better? What do you think could have happened different? Do you want to talk to your author? What would you tell the author if you could talk to him? And I could again relate this to an experience I had when I was in college. I was required to read The Wedding by Eudora Welty. Eudora Welty is a Mississippi writer. She's a really great one. She's famous. But I was very mad with her about that book because I had to read it. I didn't want to read it, and I did not enjoy that story, and it was really confusing for me. So I started to get out a pen and a piece of paper and write her a letter. Of course, this was when she was alive. So, certain books evoke emotions. Also, it's not bad to let them read books that go to movies. If they want to read the book first and then watch the movie, great. If they want to watch the movie first and then read the book, great. Because a lot of times the movies are different from the books. So that's the way you can get them to do it. I always talk about making reels or movie snippets and showing them to my students. Where as parents, you might want to do the same thing. If you have some videography skills, then you might want to create your slideshow with a PowerPoint. Or you might want to add some music to it. Do something to make them get excited about reading that book. But if you don't want to do all that, a simple trip to that library, a simple trip to the museum, these are all ways you can do it. Have them do some critical thinking about it. Sharing family recipes is a great way to help your child retain some learning over the summer. And you may be saying, how? What does a family recipe have to do with learning in the summertime? Well, allow me to explain. When you're sharing recipes with your child, be sure that you tell them a story about whoever passed the recipe down. So you may be saying, what does telling them a story have to do with learning? Well, studies have shown that when we tell stories, the person that listens to the story maintains the information longer. They make a connection. We're trying to make a connection. We're trying to activate prior knowledge. And when you're telling them about this story, make sure that you have them retell a story to you. Ask them what stood out about the story. If it's Aunt Sally's recipe or Grandma Minnie, you may have them explain or tell you another story about that particular family member. All of these are ways to get them thinking. So you might have them write the story down. That's a narrative. That's bringing in the writing. Then you will go into the process of looking at the recipe, getting them to explain it to you. They're doing this verbally at first, but then you may ask them to write it down and explain, walk you through the steps. Writing process, expository writing. When they go through the process, then they may demonstrate to you how to create this dish. You might want to then ask them at some point, what could we change in this recipe? What do you think would happen if we took this out, put this in? That is making predictions. Then you can cook 2 different versions of the recipe. Now, you may not want to do it the same day, maybe not, up to you. But after you do it and have them taste it, you might have them do a comparison and contrast. Comparison and contrasting. So again, that is math. That's the math skill. That's a reading skill. You might have them write about that. You have them talk about it. Okay, they can describe the dish in reference to their 5 senses. Again, critical thinking. Would you recommend this dish to someone else? That's making judgments, making critical thinking. So all of these are ways in which that family recipe can morph into a huge learning experience. So you can look at, when you're substituting this food, you can look at the amount of calories that are in it. You can look at the nutritional value of each ingredient. And so then you're tying in health and nutrition. You're tying in some math if you have to do the fractions, those numbers. All of these are things that tie into talking about a family recipe. Speaking on the lines of family recipe, then you could also talk about meal planning this summer. Getting your child to help you plan meals. So what you would do, I don't know if you do meal planning or not. I'm not a big stickler for it, but it does save time, money, and effort. And we'll talk about that in another video. But when you're have them help you plan out meals. Okay, so they're out for the summer. They don't want to eat the same thing over and over again. So have them write out what they want to eat for the week. Have them justify why they want to eat it. Have them think about it. Let's talk about how we're going to plan this meal. We got to make sure we have, if we are not vegetarians, we got to make sure we have our meat. We got to make sure we have our main dish, which is usually the meat. We got to make sure we have our sides. We want to have so many fruits, so many vegetables. All that's into health. All that is planning. Then we may want to see what we need to buy from the grocery store. What do we have in our cabinet? So then we can do price comparison. Again, we're doing math. We're looking at our inventory. That's economics. All of these are things that you're doing over the summer to ensure that your child doesn't suffer from summer learning loss. Another activity that you might want to do, I'm a big stickler for game night, family game night. So you may say, how does family game night have to do with, how can this help my child retain learning over the summer? Okay. They don't have to be just any old game. You can use games like Jeopardy. You can use games like Scrabble. And you can even create your own games to help your child retain some knowledge over the summer. You're working with words. You're working with vocabulary. You as a parent may want to give your child a list of vocabulary words that he or she may need to know over the summer. And as they tell you what teach, don't just give them the words and give them some definition, or just give them words and tell them to go look them up on the online. Give them the words. Help them interact with the words. Give them a paragraph with the words. Find them in sentences. Have them find them in a book. Have them find them in a magazine. Have them to scan that newspaper. All of these are ways that you can get them to doing the vocabulary. And with that Scrabble, when you're doing that family game night, you might want to pull, create some little index cards with the word on there, and you may want to have another card that has the definitions. And so make sure you have enough words. Mix them up, scramble, have them to play matching and see. You might want to, if you have the space on your either kitchen table or two different tables, lay out the words and the definitions and have them, put the timer on timer so you can match their words the fastest. All of these are activities that you can do. There are Jeopardy games online that are editable where you can go in and add your own stuff and let them play those. It's not very hard to do. You can find those and you can watch videos that explain how to do this. But family game night can turn into a great way to keep the learning. YouTube is your friend. I know we always get on our kids about spending so much time on the computer, so much time online, so much time watching videos, but videos are your friends this summer. I'm going to tell you why. Because there's a wealth of knowledge on YouTube. As an educator, as a content creator for social media, have to confess, YouTube has been my friend. So one of the things I've used YouTube for is to find information about things I don't understand. So if I'm going to teach a lesson, let's say it's math, because that's one of the things that just doesn't quite come naturally for me, I can look up the lesson, the competency, and you can get your competencies from your child's school. So, or you could get them off of line. So I know usually if you go to your state's website, if you put in their grade, go to SKI, objectives or state standards, you can go by math or you can go by English or science or whatever it is, and they'll drop down, and usually there's an explanation for it somewhere. And so once you have those, you can make sure that you go ahead and get on YouTube, type it in, and there are videos that are going to populate that go over that subject. Have your child watch them. So have your child watch those videos. Did your child's teacher send a reading list home or some activities that he or she could do? If she did not, then you can call the school and ask for one. Ask for some book recommendations for that grade level. And if you still don't get anything, you can always check online and see what books are recommended for that age range. Be sure to check out the books and see if they are appropriate, according to you and what your family values are. And then give your child a list of books that he or she needs to read this summer. You can also do those vocabulary lists the same way. Find the vocabulary words that are most frequently tested or questioned for your child and their age. Get a list of spelling words. Do it, but let's don't teach spelling and vocabulary in isolation. However, that's a topic for another video. But these are some things that you can do to ensure that your child continues to learn this summer. Write a story with your child. Make this an activity for you and your kids, depending on their age. But write a story with your kids. You might decide that this is going to be about 5 pages, 6 pages, 10, but get together and write a story. So you can write it out or you can type it. Get them to tell parts that they want to put in, and everybody get in and get the juices flowing. Just to ensure that your child is continuing to write and learn over the summer. Everybody loves art, including me. So this summer, be sure that you include art as a part of your child's learning process. There are plenty of crafts and activities that you can do with your kids. You can also have them draw pictures, paint, whatever it is. Take them outside and let them look at those insects. Let them do insect classification. Let them talk about the parts of the insect. Let them look at the flowers, the trees. Let them decide if it's a deciduous tree, if it's a conifer. Let them look at the parts of the plant. Let them talk about the root system. You can also, with the weather, talk about the various types of clouds. You can talk about humidity. You can talk about the water cycle. You can do all of these things and create them into an art activity. There are mobiles that you can create with the insects. There are mobiles that you can create doing the various parts of the various clouds and with the water cycle. All these are great activities that you can do to keep your child learning. Of course, got to mention my site. Be sure to stop by Teachers Pay. Teachers, they have plenty of printable activities that you can use. You can also buy things from places, again, like Amazon or other websites where they sell these. Go on Pinterest. They have a wealth of activities that your child can use to make sure that he or she doesn't lose any learning and that they're doing something fun and creative while they're doing their art activities this summer. You might want to consider doing a photo journal. And I love photo journals. You get your child a camera, and all of us have cameras, or at least a camera on our phone. Let them take some pictures. And when they take those pictures, they get ready to print them off. Have them write about those pictures. Have them explain what's going on. Or have them make some predictions about what's going on. Have them make up their own story about what's going on. All of these are ways in which you can keep them learning. Again, you can also get out and have them do nature walks. Take a walk out in nature. Again, you know, that's when you're looking at all these different objects. You could be doing stuff for your photo journal. You could be doing capturing things for your art and craft activity. You know, just really get involved. Or when you talk about art, you may want to choose a theme. You might want to do a water theme or a beach theme or just a summer theme. Or you might want to do watermelons. Or you might want to do strawberry, summer fruits. Whatever it is that you decide to do and let your kids make crafts out of it, it can all be turned into wonderful learning activities. Before we go any further into this video, be sure to give this video a like, a thumbs up, and follow and to subscribe so that I can keep bringing you more exciting videos. So let's get back into this video. So what we were talking about was things that we could do. Another activity I really enjoy for summertime is gardening. You don't even have to go outside to do gardening. I do have another video on gardening in small spaces, small places. You can use your boxes. You can use those raised gardens. You can use your flower pots. All of these are things that you can use to do some gardening this summer. And while you're doing the gardening, you can have your child learn about plant development. You can also be teaching them some citizenship, like responsibility. You can teach them about the earth, the various levels of the earth. All this is some wonderful things that you can do. You might want to even invest in those butterflies. You order them where they're already the little eggs and, those little forms, and you watch them develop and grow and have them do some writing about that. But all of that can be tied back into your gardening. You can talk about your pollinators and those other insects or animals that come out at night or during the day, during the summer. But when you're doing your gardening, again, you can talk about plants that have, the various root systems, whether it's a root vegetable or whether it's a regular vegetable. What kind of nutrients do they have? And this would tie back into your meal planning. How would you add this into your meal? What would you do with this? What are some ways that you can also recycle the plants that you have in your garden once they're finished? Summer does not have to be a time of learning loss. Make the most of your summer this year by keeping your child active and learning using the activities that we have discussed. Be sure to stay tuned for some more things that you can do this summer to lessen the learning gap. I'll see you guys in the next video.